receive a free KBC t-shirt while supplies last.
Coming up on First at 4, an Eastern Kentucky community receives new information about floodplain buyouts by FEMA. And a local Christian bookstore celebrates 40 years of serving its customers.
Summertime continues to settle into the region as we head through this week. I'm tracking the warm way we close out May. Coming up as First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
One Floyd County community recently made progress towards its FEMA acquisition program. Officials in the city of Wayland recently made a resolution to allow the town to open a line of credit that will be used to purchase properties as part of the FEMA buyout program. One family who is participating in the buyout program says after years of flooding and then the large flood in July of 2022, this is not how they pictured their first years of retirement.
Now, you know, we're just in limbo, not knowing what our next day is going to be because we don't know if they're going to do the buyout, when it will be, what we'll do, where we'll go.
Wayland Mayor Jerry Fultz says that the FEMA contract will allow the acquisitions to take place and, quote, could come in the next week or two. He adds it could also take much longer and that he will sign the contract the same day he receives it. We'll have more about all this tonight at 6. One business in Pike County is celebrating an anniversary that's one for the books. Lighthouse Christian Bookstore opened its doors in June of 1983 with a desire to be a full-service space for folks looking for Bibles, references, or just Christian materials. The business has expanded through the years into more of a Christian department store with music, gifts, and more, and its customer base has grown as well.
We've been very fortunate. We've, over the years, have been adopted not only by our community, but by the surrounding community in Virginia, West Virginia, all of southeastern Kentucky.
Owner Jim Ratliff says the business is only succeeding because of the people who support it. Hear more about its 40-year celebration coming up at 6.
Well, most of us continue to see plenty of sunshine out there this afternoon. Others dealing with some pop-up storms. Here's the view from our Pikeville Medical Center camera in Pikeville. 79 the current reading there. Mostly dry, but notice some of those clouds kind of billowing up in the distance. We are seeing a few pop-up showers, middle and upper 70s into the low 80s for highs today. Remarkably consistent throughout the region. Dew points in those low 60s. You start to feel the humidity, but it's not overwhelming yet. Noticing those little pop-up downpours all throughout the region. We had a hefty little storm there west of Louisa a little while ago as that crosses from east to west into portions of Elliott County. It's mostly starting to fall apart, and that's what these will do. There's no real steering mechanism to these. They go up, they kind of rain themselves out and go away, and that's what we can expect through the evening. One west of Prater right now there into portions of Dickinson County, one east of Pikeville as well, or excuse me, west of Pikeville as well, and a few more dotting the landscape through the evening. So that'll be something to watch out for, the splash and dash. Keep that First Alert weather app handy, and the interactive radar will help keep you dry. And as we head through the next 12 hours, those temperatures slowly drop back into the low 60s. Steve, I'll have the latest on when some showers move back in and when we really crank up the heat in a few minutes.
All right, Evan, thank you. Wildfires are still burning in Canada. Those fires in Nova Scotia are reportedly out of control. One fire near Halifax prompted a firefight involving more than 100 personnel.
Our first arriving crews did discover a very large and fast-moving fire going through that subdivision, and in fact traveled so significantly that we quickly escalated through second, third, fourth, and fifth alarms, which is the first use of a fifth alarm that many of us can remember in this community.
Firefighters on the ground say as many as 16,000 people have been evacuated in the Tantalon region alone. A 14-year-old boy in South Carolina was killed over the weekend outside a convenience store. Police say the store's owner shot him after a confrontation over suspected shoplifting. Nick Neville has the details.
It's senseless. It doesn't make sense. Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott describing the murder of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton outside a Shell gas station on Park Lane Road Sunday night. The store's owner, Rick Chow, has been charged in the killing.
It's just sad. It's sad. If y'all would have seen that baby laying right there, that's all I could see. All I could see.
The owners suspected Cyrus of shoplifting inside the store, which RCSD has said did not happen.
Regardless, even if he had shoplifted 4 bottles of water, which is what he initially took out of the cooler and then he put them back, even if he'd done that, that's not something you shoot anybody over, much less a 14-year-old, but you just don't do that.
At one point, there was a verbal confrontation inside the store, but no indication that things turned physical. Cyrus was running away when he was shot. The coroner's office says he had 1 gunshot wound to the right lower back. Deputies recovered a gun believed to belong to the victim near his body. RCSD says there's no evidence he pointed it at or threatened Chow. One woman who saw the shooting happen and called 911 is calling for justice.
Do you even want to go in the store now? Because anything can happen now these days, and everybody's getting trigger happy. That young man didn't have to die like that, but for me to witness that yesterday, like, I'm in fear for my own brother. And for any of the kids that's in my neighborhood, because these kids, they come outside all the time. They come to the store all the time. Now it's like, now you got to watch your kids.
The sheriff's office says there have been incidents between the store's owners and customers in the past, but nothing like this. Police in Washington State are asking people who live on Lake Washington to be on alert for burglars with an unusual mode of transportation. Apparently, the suspects use stand-up paddleboards to make their getaway. Maddie White has more on that.
The waves of Lake Washington have been known to buoy many a watercraft, and this Memorial Day was no exception as a serene crowd soaked in its quiet charm.
Nothing really happens here.
But what its peaceful wake was used for early Thursday morning?
It's not something I would expect from this area.
May surprise you.
You're looking for a yellow and a blue stand-up paddleboard.
As detectives look for answers.
This seems like some sort of Mission Impossible type thing.
Police say these burglars wearing wetsuits paddled up to a home on 95th Avenue Northeast in Yarrow Point.
They're hearing a window breaking and possibly someone inside.
And forced their way through the back glass door of the home north of Bellevue along Lake Washington.
That's crazy.
Hard to believe that someone would target a house like that.
King 5 is working to confirm what was taken from the home. Responding officers suggested over the scanner they took cash.
They took off with approximately $20,000 from this home.
So shocking that people would do such a thing.
You don't see that every day. It's like a full-on heist, basically.
Police in the area of Yarrow Point, Washington, are still on the lookout for more information. The family of former President Jimmy Carter and First Lady Rosalind Carter are sharing some sad personal news this afternoon. It appears Mrs. Carter has dementia. The Carter family says the 95-year-old former First Lady continues to live happily at her home with her 98-year-old husband, who's of course been receiving hospice care since early this year. Mrs. Carter has been an advocate for mental health for much of her life. She founded the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregivers. Married nearly 77 years, the Carters are the longest married first couple in U.S. history. This Memorial Day, a Kansas City woman is searching for answers. She discovered a well-maintained Army uniform in a ditch by the side of a road, and now she's on the hunt to find the owner's family. Andy Alcock has the details.
This Army uniform looks so well maintained you could put it right on. Last Tuesday, Luann Palmer's daughter found it on a coat hanger in this ditch by the family home on a remote road in Casey K's Piper neighborhood.
Just thought if it was my dad's, I would want it back.
In one of the pockets, there was a love letter addressed to Howard Pennington from a woman which reads in part, "Sweetheart, my love, I miss you so very much." With the letter and a 1957 postmark from Verdun, France, Luann reached out on social media looking for answers. Molly Jennings responded.
I like to try to solve a lot of mysteries, so I shared it with my daughter, and she initially ran with it.
Molly and her daughter found Pennington was assigned to an Area Army Combat Engineers unit. The unit was in France building roads. They also found Pennington died just 3 days after the postmark on the letter. They don't know if he received it or how he died. With further research, Molly found Pennington's relatives in Clinton, Missouri, about an hour away from where the uniform and letter were found. But they didn't know anything about it.
I really just want to know who had it. I want to know why they kept it safe for 65 years.
It's been hung up. Somebody took great care of it. Somebody has to know something.
They discovered that Pennington's commanding officer lived in nearby Leavenworth and still has family in that area. A pastor in Tennessee who wrote a song recorded by none other than Tina Turner pauses to remember the Queen of Rock and Roll who died last week at the age of 83. Liam Collins has that story.
Hearing these sweet notes brings back all of those sweet memories. It was a rainy day in Memphis, spring 1973 at High Record Studio. Bernie Miller was playing a tune on the piano that he just couldn't get out of his head. Singer Don Bryant walked up to him.
He said, that sounds like it'll be able to fit something that I'm working on. I said, really? He says, yeah, let me put my piece with your piece and I'll get back to you.
That catchy tune would become this. The classic, I Can't Stand the Rain, first recorded by Bryant's wife, Ann Peebles, but made famous by the Queen of Rock and Roll herself, the late, great Tina Turner.
Ann Peebles, the R&B version of it, it was pretty popular, but Tina's version took it to another level. But it was a special time. It really was.
It was on Tina's signature album, Private Dancer, which went triple platinum in 1985. And she was there when the album was presented directly to Miller. She told him she loved the song and signed it for him.
Am I with Tina Turner? And she did my song, you know, and it's triple platinum. I'm thinking, cha-ching, you know.
And he sure was standing right next to Tina Turner on her rise to fame, at the top of her game, that iconic hairdo almost as big as his smile.
I pinch myself. You know, anybody that writes a song wants it to be a hit. And if you don't, then why write?
That tune did so much more for him than he ever could have imagined. It was his third song ever recorded, and it changed his life.
I was going through some financial hard times, and her song helped me through a bunch of hard times and helped me to eat.
Since that rainy day in Memphis in 1973, the song has been featured in Tina's documentary, a Broadway show about Tina's life, and reached the Billboard's top 100 songs of all time. Because of a catchy tune that turned into a smash hit far beyond Miller's wildest dreams.
Coming up on First at 4, Congress prepares to vote on the debt ceiling deal reached during the weekend.
And a few showers and storms try to work their way closer to the region. I'll detail when more of these could be possible after this.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen, customized to the categories you choose. The WYMT News app.